So now what I want to do is actually project those textures onto my head. Okay, now key thing to keep in mind here is that this head has been unfolded already. Okay, so I've already got a good solid UV map for this head. If I go into my I just want to go into the correct panels, save panels, perspective UV. Let's click on that again. So I've already got a solid UV map for this. So what I don't want to do is if I suddenly do planar projection on here, I'm going to lose this UV map. Okay, so I want to keep this UV map. So in order to do that, I'm going to just copy the head. Okay, so if I just go Control D, and I'm just going to move the copy to the side here. So I've got a copy of the head here, and what I'm going to do is project the front onto the copy of this head. What I might just do is just give this a name. I might just call it face front. Okay, so we can see what we're working with. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to project our front face image onto this using from the front of the face. So I'm going to, first of all, what I want to do is a planar projection. So I want to go back into my modeling menu, okay, and I want to go into UV planar, okay, and sorry, in fact, actually what I want to do is click options. It's already done it from the side, so I guess I could just continue and use this from the side, but let's actually do this properly. So I'm going to go, planar options, and I want to project from the front. Obviously, one of the things we haven't got is our view axis, which is kind of useful when we're doing this. So I may well want to turn that back on. If I go into heads up display, view axis, there it is. And it tells me I want to project. To project on the front here, I have to project from the Z axis. So I'm going to do that. So again, I'm just going to go UV, planar, project from the Z axis, click project. That's fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right click. In fact, I'm just having a look at one of the options here because it's kind of made the face kind of a bit fat. I think it's tried to fill the whole UV, so which is not quite the same. So the face isn't quite the same shape as our texture because it's made the mesh fill the whole UV as a square aspect ratio. And if we look at the face that we would have modeled against, it's not square. So let's just see if we can refine those settings a little bit more. So I'm going to go back in. And it's always useful sort of looking out for these sort of things and see if we can kind of work out. So in terms of do it, I think we go best plane rather than try and fit a bounding box. Keep width and height ratio. I'm going to click on that and see if that does what we want. Okay, so you can see that we've got a better result there. And what will happen is when we go to bring our image in, that will align better. Okay, so now to bring our image in, what we're going to do is that's just going to be a texture on our material. So we just go right click, material attributes. In fact, what we want to do is rather than going to material attributes, because this has got the same material as this face at the moment, we want to actually just create a new material. So I'm going to go assign new material. I'm going to click Lambert. Okay, now the reason we're clicking Lambert and not doing like a Blinn or a Phong is purely because actually this texture already has light on it. It's already got light on it in the sense that there's light from the photograph. Now it may be if I want to add my own light, then great from the scene. Then yes, I would use something like a Blinn or a Phong. But if I don't want to do that, then I can just use a Lambert, and it just means that it will just keep the light that is actually on that person. Okay, so that's just something to understand. I might reiterate that when we've actually got the image on there, and you'll understand what I mean, hopefully. Okay, so now we've done that, I'm going to go right click. I'm going to go assign new material. Sorry, we've done that. I'm going to go right click, material attributes, and then just click on this color tab here. Okay, and we're just going to bring in the file, and we're going to bring in the front image file. So it's this front image file that we're going to bring in. Okay, great. And you'll see that it's a little bit smaller than we needed, so I do need to rescale the UV map to fit the image. That's not a problem. I'm just going to zoom in on this, And I think if I just go right click, I want to just select UV shell. Yeah, right click and go UV shell. I just select the entire UV shell and just scale it. Let's just scale that down. And you can see it should fit quite nicely. Just need to kind of carefully adjust that. Again, we can use the key features as references to make sure that we've got this correct. I'm quite happy with that. I think that's going to work fine. So now we've got that. Let's have a look at that on our model. Okay. I'm just going to turn off wireframe. If I got if I go into object mode, sorry. Yeah, there we go. And we can see that we've got what we've got on there. That's working nicely. The only thing that's kind of a little bit confusing is I think I've still got back face culling on there. So let's just go and see if that's what's causing this slightly weird kind of results here. So I'm just going to have a look at that. If I click on there and just go, in fact, I don't need to click on anything. I'll just go display, polygons, back face culling. Oh, let's see if that's what it is. Sorry. Hang on. Display polygons, back face culling. Oh, let me just have a look. Hang on. Now I'm not entirely sure why, but if I go right click and go into material attributes, what you'll see is for some reason Mayer's actually put attributes onto the transparency channel. I'm not sure where it's getting this from. It's actually getting it from this head image. I think what's happening is it must see some other layer and it's pulling it in. It's confusing the issue here. So what I want to do is if I just go back into material attributes, I just want to go right click break connection, okay, and that's what was causing this kind of weird effect on the face. So now we've sorted that out, you can see that we've got a really good clean projection on the front. I suspect if we look at the eyes, we could just do some little bit of cleanup here, okay. We can easily go back to the Photoshop file and clean that up, but I'm going to leave that for the moment. And we've got quite good, yeah, got a really good kind of clean projection here. Okay. So, and you can obviously see, yes, we have issues on the side of the face, but we're going to use our other texture to kind of sort that out. So now what we're going to do is repeat the process for the other, for the side now. So I'm going to click on here, Control D, move that across. I'm going to go UV, planar, click on options. I'm going to do a planar map from the X axis this time, so this axis here, and click project. Okay, I'm then going to create a new material, assign a new material. I'm going to make it a Lambert. So it's exactly the same process we did before. I'm going to go into the color options, so color, to put a color on there, take it from a file. We're going to take it from the side file that we've edited, so this file here, click open. And now what I want to do is have a look at our UV editor and then just rescale this. So I'm going to click the UV shell, select it, scale it, scale this down. I'm going to zoom in here. Again, using the key details to help us move this. So in this case, it would be the ear. Ooh. Hang on. That's looking pretty close. Let's see if I can just noodle that into place. Okay, the wireframe mesh still needs a little bit of just fine tuning. See if that works. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's have a look at what that looks like on our model now. Excellent. And have I got the same problem with the transparency? Yeah, it didn't seem to have the same problem with this transparency here, so that seems to be fine. Okay, so here we have, if I go again into object mode, and again, that's really nice detail on the side of the face there. Okay, excellent. So now what we want to do is take the side of the face of this model and the front of the face of this model and map that to this UV. Show me the UV. Here we are, to this UV. Okay. So the way that we do this is I'm going to select this model here. Okay. and I'm going to go into my render menu set, so rendering, light and shading, transfer map. So what this is doing is it's taking the image-based texture from one UV map and transferring that to another UV map. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to select, I want to select my target mesh. So my target mesh is going to be this. So if I select the target mesh and just go add selected, and it's also got the face front shape that's already in there. I want to just delete that because that's not my target, that's my source. And then in my source mesh, if I select the face front, I can then just go add selected. So this face shape is my target. Okay, so that's the UVs we're targeting, and this face front shape is the UVs we're taking it from. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to specify what maps I want to output. I just want to do diffuse, so we're just going to select diffuse. Okay, now what I want to do is select how I want to save that. I don't really want to do a DDS file. I'm not entirely clear what a DDS file is. I should look that up. But I'm going to go with a TIFF file because I can open that up and work with that in Photoshop. Okay, so I've got it as a TIFF file, and it's just going to call it sample diffuse color. I might actually just change that. I'm quite happy with where it's, well, let's save it in, yeah, I'm going to keep it in images. So it wants to put it in the images folder because it's an output, which is fine. I'll keep that. I'm just going to call it face front. Okay. So it's a TIFF. Connect maps to shader. What that will do is it will automatically, actually, once it's created it, use that as an image-based texture for this face. I don't want it to automatically do that, so I'm just going to kill that. Okay, then going down further down, one of the things you might want to look at is the height and width of the map. This looks incredibly small, so I'm just going to go back to our trusty 2048 combination. And one of the things I found was you want to select object space, not world space. Okay, so basically when it's looking at all the UVs and the positions of the UVs, it's doing it relative to the object, not the world, and not the UVs. Okay, I think we're okay with this. I might just kind of put it on medium. We could put it on high if we want to. I'll leave that to you to try out and decide. And then what I'm going to do is click bake. Okay, and you'll see it takes a little while. You can see it's counting down there. So I'm going to pause while it does that. Okay, so that process has been done now, and if I go into the images folder, so I'm in the images folder of my project, you can see here we have the TIFF. I'm going to open that up, and you can see that we've got this result here. It's mapped it, it's taken that front face image and put it onto that UV map. Okay, now what I want to do is do exactly the same process. So I've got this window open, I might as well keep it open, and I'm going to do the same process but actually just change the source image. So if I select this side face here, so I've selected the side face here, and what I'm going to do is just go remove the front face, add selected, so that we've got the side face here, and just change the name. So I'm going to call it face side. But other than that, the settings are exactly the same, and then just click bake again. Okay, so that process is now complete. So I've got these two images here. I'm going to open them in Photoshop. Let's just go cancel, there we go. And I'm going to open the other one in Photoshop. So let's go and open this in Photoshop. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, so I've got the front image here and the side image here. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to put them on top of each other. So what I'm going to do is click, I'm just going to go Control A to select the entire side face here, and go Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to click on the front face and then just go Control V. And because they're exactly the same, they'll just be layers on top of each other. So now they're both in the same image, but they're just layers on top of each other. So that's the original front face, and then this is the side face. Okay, so what I could do is just go and select the area in this face that we're not happy with, okay, which is basically the front area. Again, I'm just going to use the polygon tool, go through area where there isn't too much detail. So I'm just going to go through, yeah, let's go through here. think that'll work. Okay. In fact, I might want to. I might actually want to go down further than that, thinking about it, because this whole area is the front here, isn't it? I might just try and pull this out completely and just come in like this. That might be a better solution. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so this is the area that we don't want in this side image, and I can just go delete. Okay, and you'll see now if I go File, Deselect, you can see that, you know, where I can use the front face to patch over to cover and give more detail where we've got the detail that we want, if that makes sense. Okay. Before we go any further, what I want to do is, you can see there is a difference here between the actual, there seems to be a difference between the kind of the colouring of each of these images, especially on this side. So what I might want to do is actually, what I might want to do is just adjust the colour before I start trying to do the clone tool and feathering this in together. So what I'm going to do, and actually I'm just trying to sort of look at this selection and thinking, I'm wondering if I could do this selection even better than I have. I'm going to try this again. So if I just go into history and just go back up before I did the lasso tool, let's try that again. Try to think if I can actually just select down along a better area than I have. So I feel like maybe I could go even further, sort of out like this, almost. Let's try that. See if that gives a slightly better result. So delete that. Slightly better result, arguably. Let's go with that. Okay, we've still got to patch over some areas and see what we can do. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to patch over that. Sorry, I'm going to try and color match it. So what I can do is select this. I'm just going to select this front layer. So it's the front layer that I've got selected here. I'm going to select this front layer, and in order to edit it, I'm going to go right click, because at the moment it's a background, so it won't let me really edit this. So in order to edit it, I just need to go layer from background, and I just need to click OK, and this will act as a normal background now. So that's just something you come across in Photoshop. What I want to do is go into images, and I want to just go into adjustments and click levels. And this is a really simple tool to use to kind of make sure that the levels of your image match. So I'm just going to kind of pull this and see if I can just kind of bring those. See what I mean? I want to just bring these two images a bit closer together in terms of their tone and color. Okay, something like that. Okay, click OK, and that should make my life easier when I kind of try and merge them together. Now what I do is merge them together just using the clone tool. So I'm going to use my clone tool. I reckon I can make this a little bit bigger than I have at the moment. Okay, let's try that. Perhaps a little bit too big. Okay. Probably a little bit smaller than that. Let's try that. Okay, so now what I want to do is just click Alt and just, actually one of the things you might want to do, in order to kind of bring these layers together and clone them together, we need to merge them. So I'm going to click on both of them, right click, and just go merge layers. Okay, so that's now one layer, and what that allows me to do then is to literally bring these layers together. If ever I want details back off one of those images, I can always reload the images, if that makes sense. So if I want to go back to the side image, I can just reload the side image and take a bit out of that side image to fill in whatever gap that I need. Okay, so I'm just going to go Alt and start doing a clone here, just feathering that. Should kind of work. Feather that in. And in fact, I can just go straight across the head here. There you go. So I can feather that in. I can work on this area here. What I might do, I'm tempted just to kind of continue this up to here and see if that works, gives us the result that we want. Let's have a look. Obviously, you can spend a lot more time sort of carefully fettling this and getting this looking right. Or it might be actually we want more of the side image here, in which case I could just bring more of the side image in if that works a little bit better. So we can continue that, and you should end up with something. So if I go into my source images folder, something that looks like, in fact I'm going to go into a different project. This, okay? So you should end up with something that looks like this, where we kind of brought it in together and molded it. And what you'll see is, I think I did use more of the side image for these, for the stubble here. I think that just gives more detail in the stubble, okay? And I think that's working nicely. Great. So now I've got something like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into my, just going to copy this over to my new project. There we are, paste. So all I've done is just save this as a Targa file, okay? And now what I'm going to do is go back into Maya, and all I'm going to do is take this one with this UV map that we're using here, and I'm just literally going to go assign new, so I'm just going to go into material attributes, click on color, click on file, open up the file, and put on the completed image, okay? And there we have, so if I just move these out of the way, okay, there we have our completed texture, okay, using our texture system. Now, I think that's worked out well. I think there's a lack of detail in the front of the face, and I think one of the main reasons for that is because of the UV map. The UV map's a little bit odd on this, in that the face seems to have a very small area in the UV map compared to the rest of the model, and there tends to be a lot of detail in the face. So I would probably work with this UV map a little bit and try and actually expand out this face, make the face take up a bigger area of the UV map. But even if you, and one of the great things about this technique is once you set these two characters up, okay, all you've got to do is, if you adjust this UV map now, all you've got to do is reproject this, combine them in Photoshop again, and then you've got a new texture. So you can actually work reasonably effectively to create new textures in here as well. So yeah, that's using projection. So the projection I was referring to was projecting onto the front and the side of the face, and map transfer. So that's what I was referring to, this transfer maps tool, in order to create a texture based on photographs. Okay, thank you.